start with a broadcast section that's got no embargo, followed by an embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. No live tweeting during the broadcast section, please, and use the microphone provided. Michael.
Right.
I'm good, mate, yeah.
I know you touched on it yesterday, but is there the squad back now in terms of the team news? Romero?
Yeah, no, Romero won't be right for tomorrow's game. Again, we're hoping he'll be right for next week. And yeah, they're sort of the main ones, the ones who are kind of out before that, still out.
Obviously, no Rodrigo now for a period of time. Have you had a chance now to have a word with him, and how is he?
Yeah, I spoke to him briefly now. He only got in late yesterday, so today was the first day I saw him. He's accepted all along that, he's going to take whatever penalty comes his way, and at the same time, like I said yesterday, for us, it's about now trying to support him through that process and, hopefully, get through it and, once the ban's over, get him to be ready to contribute.
Obviously, you've just told me about the defenders out, Mickey and Romero. Pep Guardiola's just announced they've got 5 or 6 players back tomorrow, 3 defenders back as well. And he's just obviously signed a new deal. It's although they've had 4 defeats, it could be a really tough one this tomorrow night.
Oh, it's always tough, yeah. I mean, you're playing City at their place. They've got a pretty imposing record there. I mean, I think the 4 losses have all been away from home. So, but irrespective, it's always a great test and great challenge for us for sure. To go there and see whether we can, disrupt things again and hopefully put some pressure on them. But we know it's never an easy task. And great that Pep's re-signed. I think he's fantastic for the Premier League and keeps setting the standard, which is great for all of us trying to mow him down.
Hi, Ange. Good afternoon. Good seeing you again. You managed to beat Pep and City a few weeks ago in the League Cup. Overall, when you look at Pep's career at Barcelona, Bayern and Man City, how do you think Pep managed to revolutionize football as we know it?
I think in many sort of varied and different ways. One is just through a sustained excellence. I mean, it's not easy to win, in different countries, and I know that he's been at big clubs, but again, as we've seen recently, that's not necessarily transferable to winning things all the time. You still got to do it. So he's maintained a ridiculous level of excellence. The way his team plays, they're always sort of challenging, every opponent they face, and just his energy to maintain that for so long, I think has been outstanding. Look, he'll go down as one of the greats already, but I guess the indication that he's re-signed probably means there's more to come.
I can imagine at the beginning of the season you had a certain image, a certain vision of where you will be at this stage of the season. How far do you think you are from where you're hoping you will be mid-November-ish?
Yeah, it's kind of mixed because I think we're definitely a better side than we were last year, which is what you're looking for first, to progress as a football team. And within that context, a lot of our players have also developed more, but obviously the results haven't reflected that, which is a major part of what you do. You want to sort of improve your standing within the game, and we certainly, our results haven't reflected that. But I'm still very, very sort of bullish and positive about our progress as a team, and we just got to push on from where we are now to get that consistency that I think will then reflect in sort of more positive results.
When you're going through a difficult, challenging period, how important is it to rely on your leaders in the dressing room to make sure that they block all the noise from outside and make sure everyone's united and ready for the task ahead? Yeah,
that's very important. I think in every dressing room, I think your leaders, both in difficult times, but also in good times, that you kind of ignore the noise on both fronts, and certainly with us, it's part of our growth. I think the leadership within the group is continually getting challenged with these moments we have where we kind of have a drop off in performance, and they're the first ones to kind of look at what they can do differently. But within that, I think you get growth, and not just with guys like Sonny and Romero matters, these guys. But, I think Decky's growing all the time. He's captain of Sweden now. We've got, Ben's captain of Wales. We've got Biss captain of Mali. So we've got some leaders in there. It's about now them, like you said, making sure that the dressing room maintains its focus.
Yes.
Hi, Ange. Son's obviously sat here and explained how they've sort of buried the hatchet and everything's okay between him and Rodrigo Bentancur, but is it not sending mixed messaging a little bit that there is sort of a denial of the charge in sort of the case that happened, and also that there's an appeal in? Is that not a risk of sort of just being a bad look and maybe a distraction for the club?
I'm not interested in looks and whatever, people want to... I've said all along, he's made a mistake. We've accepted he's made a mistake. We'll accept whatever penalty comes our way. We believe, the first one was, a little bit harsh, so we've appealed that, which I think is our right. That's the whole process. Even if you look at the punishment, it's at the lower end of the scale. So even the people who have all the information have adjudicated that way. I get that people, want to burn people at the stake these days, but as I keep saying, part of this process, if you want real sort of education and progress, is to understand that when somebody makes a mistake and they pay the penalty, part of that is education and hopefully treating them in a way that people see that's the way forward. So whether it's Rodrigo or anyone else, as I said, I'm old enough in life, I've made bigger mistakes than that, mate, but I was allowed to learn from them, and hopefully I'm a better human being because of that.
And you sort of mentioned that it's on the lower end of the scale anyway. Sort of maybe from the outside it looks like what's the point, because you can only probably chip off one game because 6 is the minimum for this kind of charge. Is it really worth it for just to maybe take one game off and he can play against Liverpool in a...
Couldn't care less who he's playing against, but yeah, it's worth it because that's what we feel, and we still have a judicial process. That's why appeals are there. Like, we're not going outside the jurisdiction. We're not trying to create something that's not available to us. Our view was that we think it was harsh. We think it should have been the minimum, and we'll go through that process. If it's deemed not, then we accept that. But like I said, we're not going to just accept something if we don't feel like it's the right thing in terms of our processes. So I'm fully supportive, and like I said, we'll abide by whatever decision, but that's why there's an appeal process.
Obviously this was a long time coming, and you were expecting a sort of decision one way or another anyway, and Ben Davies also spoke about it and said internally it's sort of not a topic that's been discussed, but is that sort of your view as well? Is it sort of internally you've moved on and you're training ahead of this game, and this issue cropping up's not affected your week at all?
Well, no, it hasn't, because it's not like we've ignored it the whole way through. Like I said, whilst on the outside, but internally, we understand, and like I said, we're helping Rodrigo through the process of understanding it, the whole group understanding the ramifications of making such a mistake, and that's how you get progress, so that the whole group understands it. Is it a daily topic? No, it's not, because there's a lot of other things going on, but it's not like we're pretending it didn't happen. We know it happened, and the appropriate people are dealing with that, and we've dealt with it within the four walls of our dressing room.
Ali.
Hi, Ange. You said, I think yesterday, that Mickey van der Ven maybe mid-December you're looking at. Do you have to take it even more carefully with him now? Because I think it's 3 to 4 hamstring injuries in the last 18 months or so.
Well, you just try and treat it as it is. I mean, we'll get the advice from the medical team and the people working with him. I think there's always a natural sort of cautiousness with somebody who has a sort of recurring problem, but at the same time, you don't want to sort of treat him with too many kid gloves around it, because ultimately he's still got to go out there and play at some point. So, but it's fair to say we're taking all the appropriate steps, and Mickey will be a good judge of that too, sort of where he's at.
You've got Richarlison and Wilson-Odobert out for a significant amount of time. Does something like that obviously you wouldn't have expected early in the season, will that force you to change your plans in terms of anything transfer-wise in January in the attacking side, or was that always part of the plans?
Yeah, it just depends. Again, January's always a sort of, it's a tricky one. You don't really sort of plan for significant things in January, but a lot of that will be dictated by sort of, like you said, how we are at that time. Obviously, Wilson's going to be out for a fair chunk of the season. Richie, hopefully will be back in the new year, but again, because of sort of the similar to Mickey, we just got to be careful every step of the way. And and Mikey will still be out for a little bit of time as well. So we're a little bit short there, but it just depends. You know, if by January we get 2 or 3 back, we may not need to, but we'll kind of see it as it goes.
Let's go about Mikey. Was he hit particularly bad then by the virus?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and because he's young as well, we just got to be careful with these things. He's back up and about. He's back in the building and everything, but we're just going to take our time with him.
Just ask you very quickly. Dejan Kulusevski had another very impressive performance in midweek, but he went down on that shoulder again, and it feels like a bit of a recurring thing. Is that something that's going to have to be fixed at some point, or just something that will heal?
No, it's nothing major. And he's improved since Connor went away. Coming back today, he actually feels better. It's just like he's had a couple of significant knocks all in the same area in the last couple of weeks. So, but there's nothing sort of permanent or major or needs any attention.
Okay, we'll finish this section with George at the back, please. If you can pass it back. Other side.
Jesus Christ, slowest relay in history, right?
Cheers, Ange. Just one from me. I mean, a lot's gone on during this international break. I think it started with Wilson having the surgery, and obviously the Bentancur news and Romero's injury. How kind of how much do you have to be on the players to make sure there's no sort of feeling sorry for yourselves, especially with 2 defeats and then it's Man City up next?
Yeah, I don't get the sense that they are sort of. I think, obviously, I mean, it's 3 international breaks we've gone in on the back of a loss, which is not great to deal with. But you can see with the way they've sort of performed at international level, they all sort of made really significant impacts. Most of the guys who went away had really good. So I think that helps sort of their mindset. They've moved on quickly, and really important when they come back here that again we kind of move on pretty quickly. Understand we've still got to do our review, and we did that, and sort of look back and the areas we need to be better. But I don't get the sense that the lads are sort of down in the dumps in any way. I think there's a determination there to get it sort of back to the level we need to be, and also get a consistency around that.
Okay, we'll end the broadcast section there. Move on to the Embargoed section for 10:30 p.m. tonight. Who was Matt?
I think it's 9 games in 30 days, starting with City up to Christmas.
Yeah, spot on.
So a game every 3 days. How much do you think that's going to shape and dictate the season for everyone, not just yourself?
I mean, I guess in the league it's so tight that it may, although I've got a sense that it might be tight all season. Certainly for us, I think it's a significant period, because I think when you look at those games, we've got obviously the league where we kind of have to improve our position for sure, and then we've got a couple of important European fixtures that kind of could set us up for the back half of the year, and we've got obviously the Carabao Cup quarter-final. So at the end of that period, we could be in a decent position for a strong second half of the year. So for us, it is an important period. I think it is, and you kind of know there's no more international breaks, so you kind of the full focus is here. Yeah, so you can, you're right. You can build some momentum through that, or if things don't go well, you could get yourself into a bit of a grind. So we're kind of gearing ourselves up that it's. I think for us, it's going to be a real pivotal part of the season.
What do you think your Christmas would be like if you were still knocking around 10th at the end of that period?
Christmas is a joyous occasion, mate. Irrespective, I think it should be celebrated. Mate, if we're still 10th, obviously people won't be happy. I won't be happy. So, but we might not be 10th, mate. So.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
It's just you said before about not looking at the table.
Yeah.
But there'll come a point if you don't get at the table where that position, whether data's good or whatever's good, becomes an issue.
Yeah, of course. When I say don't look at the table, I don't look at the table in terms of where I think our progress is, but obviously the table reflects where we're at. So yeah, of course. But if we had beaten Ipswich, we'd be third. I reckon this press conference would be a lot different, wouldn't it? So, I mean, I'm not saying you, but in general, it would be different, right? I'm not going to let my life be dictated by one result. I'm sorry. I think I take a sort of wider perspective on these things because I know how fickle it can be. But we need to address our position for sure. And if we're 10th at Christmas, it won't be great, for sure, absolutely. And rightly so, there'll be a lot of scrutiny and probably a lot of scrutiny around me, which is fair enough, but that's not where I plan us to be.
Done.
And you said Pep's kind of set the standard in the Premier League, but when you combine Pep and his genius with the backing the City, Abu Dhabi and all the rest of it can give him, and and 2 more years, you know, can other clubs within Tottenham kind of hope to win consistently while he's there?
Yeah, look, it is a great challenge, and you know, I guess, but I've said in the past, I love the fact that there's, you know, a massive target out there that, you know, can seem insurmountable, because I think that hopefully, well, it does for me anyway, raises my level, it gets me going. I would, you know, I keep saying, I lived the experience of equalisation in sport in Australia, and it's great from a, I guess, competitive point of view, because everyone believes they can win, but after a while I used to get frustrated with it, because excellence tends to be capped at a certain point. It's up to everyone else to kind of bridge that gap, you know, and I love the challenge of that, and I would never think, I'd never see that as a bad thing.
So there was no part of you that just thought it would be nice if he could do it?
No, because I look at it the other way. I go, imagine you knock him off. That'd be something. Eh? That'd be something. So, and I'm at the stage of my life where I'd rather have a chance of knocking him off than missing that opportunity. Not in the right way, obviously. Rather than miss that opportunity, or, you know, I think when greatness is around, you want to be around it, and hopefully it challenges you to be like that as well.
Tom?
Rephrase my... So.
Ange, throughout your time here, you've been pretty steadfast with your approach in all these press conferences. How
I have.
But I was quite struck by your post-match after Ipswich. You said that you'll have to fix something to help with the consistency and maybe look at your approach.
Yeah.
Just wondering if that was sort of words after a game, or if you've reflected on it in the last couple of weeks, and if there is something that may be tweaked.
Yeah, no, I'm always kind of reflecting. I mean, I think, I don't think I would have sort of lasted as long if I was just sort of, I know people try and paint me as sort of one-dimensional. There are certain beliefs that I have that I won't waver on, but within that process, there's always things, because there's different challenges wherever you go. And I just think, you know, the games we've really got stuck in this year, we've really struggled to find solutions in game. You know, and I'm thinking about sort of Brighton second half, Palace and Ipswich, where we didn't really have solutions out there. And the solutions do exist; they exist within our football. But you know, maybe the way I'm messaging that, so that's the reflective bit for me, is to say, okay, well, how can I become even sort of clearer, or maybe find a different way of showing the players that when we do get stuck in these moments, there are solutions there, because obviously currently how I am doing it hasn't had the impact I'd hope it would have. So there's always self-reflection, I think. Like I said, I am steadfast, and I am clear on I have some really strong principles that I just won't budge on, but that doesn't mean I don't feel at times I need to adapt in the way I deliver things or the way I work.
Just on a completely separate issue, over the international break we had the situation with David Coote that came up with the referee.
Yeah.
I guess the question to all managers really is there an element of trust that's been lost in the referees as a result?
No, not with me. And again, I'm not across the detail of it, but firstly, I think a bit like Rodrigo, he's obviously made some poor decisions, made a big mistake, and he's a human being, so you kind of worry about his welfare. So hopefully, I'm sure he's getting good support around him. But you know, with our officials, we rightly so, we hold them to the highest possible standard because of those things. But I don't think just because one person makes a mistake that necessarily means, I'm not silly enough to think that every official is perfect, like no manager is perfect or anyone else, but we all make mistakes. So I never lose faith in the officialdom, because I think if you do, then it's a very slippery slope. And I've worked in a couple of leagues where that was always kind of the undertone, and I hated it, because like you kind of questioned everything, and I don't want to do that. I believe the officials, you know, I believe in the integrity of the officials, and I'll always abide by sort of, you know, their decision making and accept it.
Dave?
wanted to ask you two things actually. First of all, about Romero. Had he been carrying something when he went to Argentina?
Look, he hasn't been carried, but he has been. Look, to be fair, even with us, he hasn't been sort of fully fit for probably 2 or 3 weeks, and he's kind of soldiered on through it because that's the kind of character, and we kind of needed him. But you know, I think when he went away, he kind of realised that no, this is not kind of healing the way we wanted to. It's a couple of separate issues, but so, and I kind of spoke to him and I said, look, just have a break. We need you 100% fit. As much as we'd love to have him out there, and I think it's best for him. He gets totally over everything, and you know, he had the birth of his daughter this week as well, which is also a significant event in his life, and you know, these kind of things. I think it's important even for him to pause a little bit and just spend some time with his family. So I think it's the right thing to do.
Can you give any? He says a couple of things. Can you give any detail about what it is?
Yeah, one was obviously the knock on his toe, which has been a bit sort of troublesome, and has been. And prior to that, he had a bit of a sort of tight hamstring. It wasn't a hamstring injury, but he was kind of tight with it. So we're being careful with him. He's kind of over both now, but we're just waiting. You know, rather than sort of throw him back in this weekend. Like I said, he's had the birth of his daughter as well. We just felt like we'll take this time to get him 100%.
Just finally, as a manager, as his manager, is there that temptation to think, I don't really want him to go to South America for these fixtures? It's understandable.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. But you know, I think, like I said, there's always a line there with, you know, especially somebody like Romero, where you've got to trust his judgment as well. You know, and he understands the responsibility he has. He didn't make it any worse. He just didn't feel like he could perform at the level he wanted to, and it's the reason he came off at half-time. And it didn't sort of, if anything, you know, when he came back, it's actually improved. So it hasn't made any sort of the situation worse for him. I just think, you know, he needs to get his body right so he can be at his best.
Okay, we'll go Matt and then finish with Tom, please.
We reached a point last year with injury when you even said to us, we'll address it, we'll have a look at the end of the season, we'll review it and see whether we're doing anything wrong, training-wise, day-to-day. Did you find out as much change?
Yeah, a fair bit's changed. We've changed a lot sort of in that space in terms of personnel, first of all, people, and then, you know, with the way we're sort of dealing with both injury sort of prevention and injuries. And look, you know, this year, the unfortunate thing for us is we've been hit in sort of the same sort of areas. Like, you know, it's kind of in the attacking third, we've obviously had significant injuries, which means, you know, you're kind of thin in that place and you kind of overload people. So some of it's a bit of a circumstance of that. But yeah, we addressed it in the off-season. I think the nature of the way we play and we train is always going to be on the edge. It's kind of by design, which means you're going to have some attrition. But, you know, the ones we've had this year, for the most part, I think, you know, things like Richie and sort of probably Wilson are just a consequence of, you know, the way we train, the way we play, and those players not being ready for it.
You can't ease off when training for you have to.
Well, you can, but I just feel it will sort of take away from what we're trying to create here. And I believe that, you know, you get more robust as you move along on the journey. So I think we've seen that with some of our players. They're really thriving in it. Like we're getting better performances, better physical outputs from a lot of players who are in their second year with us. And I think that gets inbuilt as you go along, but there is some attrition there.
Well, you just throw a random one in as well about Hugo Lloris and the watch. Did you see something where he said it was almost in this all bloody typical Spurs kind of pride. We celebrate and get to the final, not winning it. Like, what were your thoughts on what he said and whether or not that
look, I think I might have mentioned it, but I always feel with those things, because I see it from my experiences, right? When people talk about things, experiences they've shared with me, we've got a totally different view, even though we've lived the same experience. I think everyone's got their own truth about these things, and you know, that's sort of Hugo's truth. I think, you know, maybe Daniel's got a different truth about that, and other people at the club have got a different truth about that. Is it significant? I really don't think so. I think those kind of things probably take on more significance in your mind if there isn't a positive outcome. But if there was a positive outcome, people might have said, oh, you know, I was inspired because the club sort of gave us this great boost before. I mean, I don't know. I think all those things could be true at the same time. Ultimately, when you get to a final, it was a pretty tight final decided by, you know, small margins. To say that one thing was indicative of, because it takes a hell of a lot. Like in the semi-final, I had to overturn a pretty big deficit. So, isn't that a winning culture? Isn't that sort of, so? Yeah, like I said, I don't like sort of passing judgment on those things, because they all lived it and they've got their own truth behind it.
Tom, finish with you, please.
Just a sort of bigger picture question. This is your 50th league game charge this weekend. In the early stages, you kind of said you expected lots of ups and downs. Would you expect at this point, is this kind of where you would expect the team to be, still kind of showing good signs, but also some bad ones as well?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but I think you've got to look at it as the totality of those 50 games. Like I said, because your question probably would have been reframed differently if we had won the last game. Because you'd be going, you know, at the end of 50 games, would you expect yourself to be third and still be in the Carabao Cup and going well in Europe? You know, so because of one result, we're kind of looking at it the other way. And I think what I try and do is look at that totality of those 50 games. And Dan, you wrote one this week, wasn't it, about my 50 games? Was it you?
Yes.
Yeah. I do read stuff, mate. And I thought it was a good article too. Very balanced. For whatever that's worth, anyway. Not that I agree with all of it. But if you look at the totality of those 50 games, considering our starting point, you know, and I keep going back to that because I think people forget our starting point. I took over a club, finished 8th. I didn't take over a club that finished 3rd, 4th, 2nd, 5th. Finished 8th, no European football, significant player turnover, change in playing style. Where did I think we'd be after 50 games? God knows, mate. You know, could have been a whole lot worse now. But when you look at it in the current prism of we're 10th, you're kind of going, doesn't look good. I understand that, and we have to improve that. But over the 50 games, I think there's enough there that shows we are progressing as a team and we are developing into the team we want. The key is the next 50 games, if they can be in totality better than the first 50, A, that means I'm here, but secondly, I think we'll be in a good space.
Do you think maybe that first kind of 2 or 3 months almost set the standard unhelpfully high?
No, because like it was what it was. Like it's somehow that's become a millstone because I started too well, you know. And like, what was I supposed to do? Start crap, and then everyone goes, "Oh, they're improved." You know, like it's just that's what we dealt with at the time. We were riding on a bit of a wave of sort of a new enthusiasm, and a lot of those games were very, very close, mate. You know, last minute Sheffield United. You know, like there's a lot of games that 1 or 2 games different when our season doesn't look that much better. So you understand that context. So I didn't get carried away with that, nor am I sort of lost any sort of belief in what we're doing just because we're where we are now. So so that's always kind of my view on these things. Like I said, I won't sort of just look at what's in front of us right now. Look at the totality of what we're trying to do. I firmly believe we're on the right path. I firmly believe in the squad of players. I firmly believe that we will have success. Those things are still there, but you know, I can see why outwardly in this current stage, if you put a pin in it right now, you're going, well, it doesn't look that way.
Okay, thank you.